The rain hammered against the bedroom window as Jennifer Monroe stuffed the last of her clothes into a worn suitcase. Her hands trembled, not from cold, but from 3 years of accumulated heartbreak finally reaching its breaking point. The divorce papers sat on the mahogany dresser, her signature still wet, a finality that both terrified and liberated her. She had walked into this marriage believing in forever. She was leaving it with nothing but the clothes on her back, and a heart that felt like shattered glass. Michael Hayes had been everything she thought she wanted. Successful, charismatic, ambitious. But somewhere between the lavish wedding and the empty mansion they called home, she had discovered that ambition could devour a man whole. Their marriage had become a graveyard of broken promises, missed anniversaries, and conversations that never happened. Tonight, after he had forgotten their 3rd anniversary entirely, choosing instead to attend yet another business dinner, Jennifer had finally accepted what her heart had been screaming for months. She was married to a ghost. The house stood silent around her, its vastness echoing her loneliness. This architectural masterpiece in Connecticut's elite suburb had been featured in design magazines, but it had never been a home. It was a showpiece, just like their marriage, just like she had become, a beautiful accessory to Michael's carefully curated life. Jennifer closed the suitcase with a decisive click. She wasn't leaving a note. What would she even say? Michael wouldn't notice she was gone until he needed her to appear at his next corporate function. She called for a taxi using the last bit of battery on her phone. Her sister Amanda lived in a modest apartment in Boston, and Jennifer had already called ahead. Amanda had simply said, "It's about time," and promised the couch was hers for as long as she needed. No judgment, no questions, just sisterly love. That unconditional acceptance made Jennifer's eyes burn with unshed tears. As she descended the grand staircase one final time, her footsteps echoed in the cavernous foyer. Wedding photos lined the walls. Images of a smiling couple who had believed they were writing a love story. Jennifer didn't look at them. She couldn't. That woman in the white dress had been so naive, so certain that love would be enough. She had learned the hard way that love required presence, and Michael had been absent for most of their marriage, even when he was standing right beside her. The taxi's headlights cut through the rain as it pulled up the circular driveway. Jennifer took one last breath of the jasmine-scented air. Michael had insisted on fresh flowers throughout the house, another empty gesture from a man who had forgotten how to show real affection. She walked out the front door and didn't look back. Some chapters needed to close completely before new ones could begin. The drive to Boston took nearly 3 hours through the storm. Jennifer watched the landscape blur past the rain-streaked windows, each mile putting distance between her and the life she was leaving behind. The taxi driver, an older gentleman named Frank, tried to make small talk at first, but eventually settled into respectful silence when he sensed she needed space. She was grateful. Words felt impossible right now. Her phone had died an hour into the journey, which felt oddly appropriate. No messages from Michael. No last-minute realization that his wife was gone. No desperate calls begging her to come back. The silence was its own kind of answer, confirming what she had known deep down. Michael Hayes had lost her long before she had walked out that door. He just hadn't cared enough to notice. Amanda's apartment building appeared through the rain like a beacon. It wasn't grand or impressive, but warm light glowed from the windows, and Jennifer could see a small wreath on the door. Her sister had always known how to make a place feel like home, something Jennifer had never managed in the mansion. She paid Frank with the emergency cash she had hidden in her wallet, adding a generous tip that left her with barely enough for coffee. Amanda opened the door before Jennifer could knock, pulling her into a fierce hug that finally broke the dam. Jennifer sobbed into her sister's shoulder, 3 years of loneliness pouring out in ragged gasps. Amanda just held her, whispering, "You're safe now. You're home." They stood in the doorway like that, the rain continuing its relentless assault on the world outside. While inside, Jennifer began the painful process of remembering who she had been before Michael Hayes. Hours later, wrapped in Amanda's spare bathrobe and nursing a cup of tea, Jennifer finally felt like she could breathe. They sat on the worn couch, and Amanda didn't push for details. She simply existed beside her sister, a steady presence that demanded nothing. The apartment was small, cluttered with books and plants, so different from the sterile perfection Jennifer had left behind. It was perfect. "I should have left sooner," Jennifer whispered, staring into her tea. "Everyone could see it wasn't working. I was just too proud to admit failure." Amanda squeezed her hand. "Marriage ending isn't failure, Jen. Staying in something that destroys you, that would be failure. You chose yourself. That takes more courage than staying ever could." Jennifer wanted to believe that, but the shame still sat heavy in her chest. She had been so certain Michael was her forever. How had she been so wrong? Her phone, now plugged in and charging on Amanda's kitchen counter, suddenly buzzed to life. Both sisters froze, staring at it like it might explode. "It's probably him," Jennifer said, her stomach twisting. "Finally noticed I'm gone." But when Amanda checked the screen, her eyebrows shot up in confusion. "Jen, it's not Michael. It's from a number labeled private. The message just says, 'Ms. Monroe, a car will arrive for you at the address in 15 minutes. Please be ready.'" Jennifer's blood ran cold. "What? That doesn't make sense. No one knows I'm here except you." Before Amanda could respond, another message came through. "This concerns your future. Trust me, Jennifer. You'll want to hear what I have to say. DW." The initials meant nothing to her. Jennifer's mind raced through possibilities, but none of them made sense. Who could have tracked her here, and how? She hadn't told anyone where she was going. The phone buzzed again. A picture this time. A sleek black car with tinted windows, and behind it, partially visible through the rain, the distinctive silhouette of a private jet. Amanda grabbed Jennifer's arm. "Jen, this is crazy. You're not actually considering," but Jennifer was already staring at the window, where headlights were just turning onto the street, the car from the photo. Her heart hammered in her chest as she watched it glide to a stop directly in front of Amanda's building. The driver emerged with an umbrella, waiting. "This is insane," Jennifer breathed. But her feet were already moving toward her still damp clothes. Something in those messages, something in the certainty of that voice, had sparked a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. Curiosity. Maybe even hope. She had just walked away from her entire life. What did she have to lose by finding out what this mysterious DW wanted? Amanda stood between her and the door. "Jennifer Marie Monroe, you cannot be seriously thinking about getting in a strange car to go to a random plane in the middle of the night. This is how people disappear." Jennifer met her sister's eyes, and for the first time in years, she felt a spark of her old self. The girl who had once dreamed big, who had taken risks, who had believed in magic before Michael Hayes had taught her to settle for less. "Maybe," she said softly, pulling on her jacket. "Or maybe this is how people find themselves again." The leather interior of the car smelled like expensive cologne and new money. Jennifer sat rigidly in the back seat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, as the driver navigated through Boston's rain-slicked streets with practiced ease. He hadn't spoken a word beyond a polite greeting, and the privacy screen remained up, leaving her alone with her racing thoughts and the increasingly loud voice in her head screaming that this was monumentally stupid. She had left Amanda standing in the doorway, phone in hand, with strict instructions to call the police if Jennifer didn't check in within 2 hours. It wasn't much of a safety net, but it was something. The car headed toward a private airfield on the outskirts of the city, and with each passing mile, Jennifer's anxiety ratcheted higher. Who was DW? How did they know where she was? And more importantly, what could they possibly want with her? The airfield appeared through the darkness, its perimeter marked by subtle lighting that suggested serious money. This wasn't some small operation. The hangar they approached was state-of-the-art, and the jet sitting on the tarmac was the kind Jennifer had only seen in magazines. A Gulfstream G650, if she remembered correctly, from the countless business articles Michael used to bore her with during their early dates. This aircraft cost somewhere around $70 million. The driver opened her door, umbrella already deployed against the persistent rain. "Ms. Monroe, if you'll follow me, please. Mr. Whitmore is waiting aboard." Whitmore. DW. The name triggered something in Jennifer's memory, but she couldn't quite place it. She followed the driver across the tarmac, her shoes clicking against the wet pavement, each step feeling both terrifying and exhilarating. The jet's stairs descended like an invitation to another world, warm light spilling from the cabin interior. At the top of the stairs stood a man who took Jennifer's breath away, not because he was handsome, though he certainly was, but because of the intensity in his dark eyes as he watched her approach. He appeared to be in his early 40s, with silver threading through his black hair and the kind of presence that suggested he was accustomed to commanding attention. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Jennifer's wedding dress had, and he held a glass of what looked like whiskey. "Ms. Monroe," he said, his voice rich and smooth. "Thank you for trusting your instincts. I'm Daniel Whitmore. Please, come in from the rain." Jennifer climbed the stairs on shaking legs, and the moment she stepped into the cabin, the door sealed shut behind her. The interior was obscenely luxurious. Cream leather seats, polished wood accents, and a level of comfort that made first class look like economy. Daniel gestured to one of the seats, and Jennifer sank into it, her mind spinning. "I know you must have questions," Daniel began, settling into the seat across from her, "and I promise to answer all of them. But first, can I offer you something to drink? You've had quite a night. How about you start with how you found me?" Jennifer's voice came out steadier than she felt. "And why you sent a car for a woman you've never met in the middle of the night?" A smile tugged at Daniel's lips, but there was something sad in it. "Fair enough. Direct. I like that." He set down his glass and leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "I've known about you for 3 years, Jennifer. Since the day you married Michael Hayes. And I've been waiting for the day you'd finally